Yasya yato nivayad itaratas charte swavidya swarat. Tene brahma hridaya adikavaye muyanti yat surayaha. Tejo varimidam yata vinimayo yatra trisargo misha. Damna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes, of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma pujita kaitravotra paramo nirmatsanam satam vedyam vastuvam atra vastu shivadam tapa trayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim va purer ishvaraha sadyohidi avarudyate tra kriti bihi sususabhistakshanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam sukumukad amrita dravya samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam muhur aho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of C. Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Shinvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantaksto abhadrani vidunati suhitsatam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best-wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, verse number 9. Kaya Vritya Vartitam Vas Charad Bihi Shiti Mandalam Tirtani Shetramukyani Sevitaniha Bhutali. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. While traveling on the surface of the earth, how did you maintain your livelihood? At which holy places and pilgrimage sites did you render service? So it's a question being asked to Vidura by the residents of Hastinapur. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Vidura went out from the palace to detach himself from household affairs, especially political intrigues. As referred to herein before, he was practically insulted by Duryodhana's calling him a son of a Sudrani, although it was not out of place to talk loosely in the case of one's grandmother. Vidura's mother, although a Sudrani, was the grandmother of Duryodhana, and funny talks are sometimes allowed between grandmother and grandchildren. But because the remark was an actual fact, it was unpalatable talk to Vidura, and it was accepted as a direct insult. He therefore decided to quit his paternal house and prepare for a renounced order of life. This preparatory stage is called Vanaprastha Ashrama, or retired life for traveling and visiting the holy places on the surface of the earth. In the holy places of India, like Vrindavan, Haridwar, Jagannath Puri, and Prayaga, there are many great devotees, and there are still free kitchen houses for persons who desire to advance spiritually. Maharaja Yudhisthira was inquisitive to learn whether Vidura maintained himself by the mercy of the free kitchen houses, and they're called chatras. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So when a person insults a genuine devotee, it's a great offense. That means that person is in deep trouble and on the way to experiencing a lot of reactions. So Krishna does not tolerate insults to his devotees, although the devotee will tolerate it, but Krishna doesn't tolerate it. Insults or offenses. Now, what was the insult? Well, Duryodhana, being an expert in insulting people, told Vidura that his mother was a Sudrani. Now, it's true. But how did that happen? In other words, Duryodhana is saying that, you're actually a low-born person in this family. That my father is a high-born person. Well, what is he implying? Well, he's talking about Vyasadeva, who agreed to, his mother, Satyavati, insisted that he procreate children because there was no one there to continue the line. So he said, okay. But as we explained previously, the same thing. There's Amba, Ambalika, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. So Amba had the first child with Vyasadeva, but she was so, let's say, uncomfortable going to Vyasadeva that she sent her servant for the second child. And that servant was a Sudrani. So it's not that Vyasadeva would, he was just simply doing his duty that his mother ordered him to do. And it's not Vidura's fault either. But Duryodhana is sort of rubbing it in his face as an insult. And although it's factual, Vidura took it as an insult. Otherwise, why would someone say that? Whenever people are treating you harshly, let's say you're married and your husband or your wife and your spouse is treating you harshly, speaking insulting words and harsh speech, one can tolerate that for some time, but eventually it becomes intolerable. And rather than get into a big fight, one can decide, well, maybe it's time for me to move on in my life. So one doesn't, get a divorce and marry someone else. They take the renounced order of life. They begin by becoming a vanaprastha, and then eventually a sannyasi. And the wife becomes also a vanaprasthi, and then eventually lives in a holy place the rest of her life, or under the protection of her children. So Vidura did not get angry. He decided to quit his paternal house and prepare for the renounced order of life. So that's the sign of a really advanced person spiritually. Otherwise, many people will stay in that abusive situation right up to the end of their life. Like I know one person, she was the mother of one of our devotees, and she had to go back to India and live with her another son, and his wife was more or less abusive to her. And eventually, in a short period of time, she died because at her age, being abused like that, it was just too much for her. So you see, staying in a situation like that is very unhealthy. And it can also, you can have psychosomatic symptoms. Or psychosomatic means it starts with an agitated or depressed mind, and it affects your health, and you can die. When people are very unhappy and they don't see any solution to their unhappiness, they usually end up getting sick. So Prabhupada says that this vanaprastha life is retired life for traveling and visiting holy places on the surface of the earth. Retired life doesn't mean you go and play golf and you play cards. And like you go to India today, you'll see all over India, older gentlemen are sitting down playing cards. Is that right, Prabhupada? Yeah? Yeah, yeah, they're playing cards, wasting their time, gambling. Well, because they don't know what to do, right? Uh, if someone is a farmer, usually they continue doing farming right up till they die. Or if they get sick, then they stop. But usually farmers are very healthy if they're not using pesticides and all that junk. They're just using traditional methods. They stay healthy their whole life right up to death, and they're active. But nowadays people work for, Indian Railroad, or they work in a bank, or they work for the government, or they're in the army, and when they retire, they don't know what to do. They just play cards, waste their time. Stay with this son, stay with that daughter, and eventually they die. So, no, taking the renounced order of life and preparing oneself by visiting holy places, so like Vrindavan, Hardwar, Jagannath Puri, Prayag. Prabhupada says there are many great devotees, and there are still free kitchen houses for persons who desire to advance spiritually. Yeah, so prasadam is supplied. Our temple in Vrindavan feeds so many widows and renounced people. Our temple in Mayapur, Prabhupada said, no one in a 10-mile radius of Mayapur should go hungry. Okay. And prasadam distribution is very important. It's not feeding the poor and hungry and the homeless. It's giving prasadam, Krishna's mercy. It's a big difference. Therefore, the food has to be offered with love and devotion to Krishna and distributed with love and devotion to the people. So Maharaj Yudhisthira was inquisitive to learn whether Vidura maintained himself by the mercy of the free kitchen houses. I wonder why. Well, the free kitchen houses, traditionally they would be distributing only prasadam. So what does a vanaprasthi need? It just needs a small amount of earth to sleep on and a little bit of prasadam, and the rest is very easy. He has a dhoti and a kopin, so those things can be washed very easily and dried. In India, they could dry in less than an hour in the Indian sun, and they can be washed in a very short period of time. So then the rest of the time one is visiting holy places, one is hearing lectures by great sages, and you don't need hardly any money at all. You can live with almost nothing. And as long as there's some prasadam supplied and a little place like 6 feet where you can sleep, that's it. So Vidura was a real renunciate, and he didn't get upset that he has to leave his paternal home. He realized that, this is a great opportunity for me. Now I'll prepare myself for the latter part of my life by renouncing home and hearth. If you remain attached to home and hearth right up to death, it's very inauspicious in many ways. But if you learn that detachment and are not afraid, you can make a lot of spiritual advancement and think of Krishna at the moment of death. Whereas if you stay with the family the whole time, there's always family problems, and who's going to get all the money of Pitaji and all these things, people fighting. And it's a very uncomfortable situation. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? Yeah. Yeah, because Dhritarashtra is being protected and cared for by Yudhisthira, who, because of Yudhisthira, all his kids were killed, all his sons were killed. It's a very, let's say, unfortunate situation, right? Dhritarashtra, his whole project was to kill the Pandavas. They were under his protection. And now he's under the protection of Yudhisthira, who's treating him with great respect. And, You see, so it was like very, very. I mean, we spoke about this yesterday. It's very inauspicious situation. So Vidura came back and said, "What are you doing?" He said, "What are you doing? You caused the war. I tried to convince you not to make war against the Pandavas. You were hell-bent to make this war, and now look what happened. All your sons are dead, and you're living under the protection of Yudhisthira." He said, "You leave immediately, you, your wife." So when Dhritarashtra and his wife Gandhari left, Kunti left also with them, even though they were the cause of all her misery in her life. She also left with them. They all went up to Himalayas and prepared themselves to leave their bodies. Okay. That's why he came back. He didn't come back because he was attached. He came back for his brother to explain to him that it was very inauspicious what he was doing. Yeah. Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.